Hey guys, Alf here, and today I'll be reviewing Beyond the Gates. So Beyond the Gates is a 2016 independent film. It's kind of like an homage to the old genre films, like those cheap New Moon movies where they would get sucked into their TV or something, or the TV would, or characters from TV would come to life, and it'd be like a horror sci-fi kind of movie. It's that kind of thing, mixing in kind of like Jumanji with that. So the movie was written and directed by Jackson Stewart and Steven Scarlatta. Jackson Stewart hasn't really done much. He's done a couple of short films and a few TV episodes. But I think he's up and coming. He might be coming out with more stuff pretty soon. Steven Scarlatta also hasn't done much, but he co-wrote Final Girl, which was this movie with Abigail Breslin. I saw it on Netflix. It was pretty good. Maybe I'll review that sometimes. So the film stars a lot of independent horror film actors, like people I've been seeing a good amount recently, and will probably be in a lot more in the future. But these aren't people who will probably end up being huge actors. So they're probably going to stick around to being more popular in the independent horror film scene. So the character Gordon, played by Graham Skipper, who you might know from Tales of Halloween and Almost Human. Gordon goes home because he hears about his dad disappearing, or which they're assuming is dead. So he goes back to his hometown to take care of his affairs and stuff. His father owned an old video game, well, maybe not video game, like a rental store, but they kept all kinds of pop culture stuff of the time. They had board games and video games and stuff like that, and movies, of course, like cheesy underground movies and stuff. So then when he gets to the shop, we're introduced to his brother, John, who's played by Chase Williamson, who you might have seen in John Dies at the End, which I love that movie. That's a great movie. And Siren, which is a spin-off from VHS, or really a remake of the first story on VHS, which I just saw recently and enjoyed. I might review that pretty soon too. So right away you realize that Gordon and John are polar opposites, really. Gordon's like the professional buttoned-up shirt kind of guy, and John is the scruffy party kind of guy, slacker. You could tell they're kind of standoffish to each other. I guess they haven't spoken in a long time. You find out their dad's an alcoholic. Neither of them know what happened to him, but they kind of wonder what happened to him, but they don't. But Gordon doesn't really mind think about it too much. He just wants to get the affair straightened up, sell the store and the house, and go back to his life. So after leaving the store, Gordon goes out to eat with his girlfriend Margo, who is played by Bree Grant, who I remember from Heroes, and she was also in Halloween 2. While they're eating there, his brother John shows up with a friend, a really skeevy looking dude, and they sits down, and he's basically like an asshole. They impose on their dinner and sit down next to him and order a bunch of drinks that they expect them to pay for, and the guy's all like, the skeevy friend is all like kicking it to Gordon's girlfriend, basically being an asshole. And of course Gordon and that guy come to a head, and they kind of argue, and then Gordon and his girlfriend leave, and they're like, fuck this, we don't need to eat here. So the next day, Gordon and John end up back at the store going through stuff, and John finds one of those video board games. If you guys don't remember this, I always remember there's one called Nightmare, and it was like a horror based one, and it's basically a VHS tape you put into your VCR. You open up a board game, and the VCR basically tells you how to play the game and what to do, and you're supposed to stop and roll and do the stuff you do, and then when it tells you to turn the game back on, you click play, and it tells you what you're gonna do next. And I always have some creepy guy in a cloak talking and telling you what to do, trying to seem scary, but he was really kind of cheesy though. So he finds one. It's called Beyond the Gates, and they decide to check it out. They put the VHS tape in, and a woman appears, kind of like a vampira kind of woman in a black and white, and her name is Evelyn, and she's played by Barbara Crampton, who is a horror icon, if you guys know. If you don't, she was in Reanimator, From Beyond, back in the day. Now, more recently, she was in We Are Still Here, You're Next, Lords of Salem. All really good movies. She's fantastic. She's one of my favorite scream queens. So it was really pleasant to see her in this because when I started watching this, I had no idea she was in it. And then they popped in the videotape. She popped up, and I was like, "Oh, pleasant surprise." So the woman in the video starts talking to them and telling them that they should open the board and set up the game, basically. But they're in the middle of having like a discussion. They're not really paying attention. It's like they're like, "Oh, it's just some silly game," blah blah blah. So they end up turning it off, putting it away, and I think he invites his brother over. They get along a little better today, and he invites his brother over for dinner. Basically he invites him over for dinner because they took too long cleaning stuff up, and he's gonna be late. So he's basically gonna use his brother as an excuse. So back home, they're having dinner. His girlfriend made dinner, and they're all eating, and it's going so, and his brother starts telling his girlfriend about that game they found, and she's like, "What's a video board game? I never heard of that." So he pops it out, and he's like, "Here, check it out." And she's like, "We should play." So he's like, "Yeah, and Gordon's like, he's kind of like a tightwad, so he's like, whatever." But they end up they go to the living room, they set it up, they pop in the tape, and once they pop in the tape and press play, the lady's just kind of staring at them, and she just keeps staring, and they're like, "What are we supposed to do?" So and John remembers, she said to set up the board game before, so they set it up. And after they do that, then she finally talks and says, pick your icons. There's three tokens. Pick your color and set it up in the board. And she describes the game. Basically, they have to find 4 keys to finish the game. So from here on out is where it becomes like a horror Jumanji. Like as they play through the board, they have to. The video shows them scenes of stuff, and they have to find certain keys in, like, one's in their yard and one's in another place, and they have to go and find it. But to find it, the keys are usually within like these voodoo dolls, and to get it out, they have to do things to the voodoo doll, which basically kill people in real life. So that's basically the gist of the story. I don't want to go into any more of it. I guess I would spoil it if I did. It's not too long of a movie. I enjoyed it a lot. I think it's pretty cool. I think the homage aspect is really cool. It has like 80s synth music, which is really cool, by the same guy who did it on We Are Still Here. Fits perfect with like the homage of it, and the take on the genre. The movie's not that long. It's like an hour and 20 minutes. I've seen a couple of reviews complaining about it getting boring and dragging a bit before it gets to the game board, the board game horror stuff. But I didn't find that boring. I was kept throughout the whole movie. The story wasn't like super interesting, but it was interesting enough. The actors kept me engaged. They weren't great, but they weren't terrible either. They were actually perfect for this kind of film, like a genre piece, homage film. Like it fit perfect. It was very like reminiscent of 80s and 90s films, especially like New Moon kind of films. But yeah, I wasn't bored by that. You hear about, it's basically like a slow build up between John and Gordon's relationship and where it is now, and them slowly getting along again, and the troubles between Gordon and Margo's relationship, and you get little bits of that there's stuff wrong, but you're not sure, and something's going wrong in it. But all in all, it's not that bad. It's some character development. It takes till about like halfway through the movie till you get to like the real horror stuff. Didn't bother me at all. I thought it was pretty good. Yep, so that's about it. I really enjoyed this film. I think it's fun. Not the best film, but it's a fun, entertaining film to watch if you're bored one day. It might still be on Netflix. I'm not sure. Double check that. Um, Really impressed with what's it, Jackson Stewart. I liked his writing and directing. Being a fan of like what he's homaging, I think that I would enjoy more films by him, and I can't wait to see if he does things in the future. I looked him up on IMDb, and it doesn't say he has anything else coming up. So here's hoping. And not sure if this movie's still on Netflix. Check it out. Look for it. Let me know what you think, and I'll catch you guys next time.